Okay. Hi, my name is Jeffery Stevens, and I'd like to talk to you about the drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, specifically the 1002 area. My claim is that drilling for oil would have a significant negative impact on the national park. For one, ANWR is a pristine wilderness. This means that the only human activity around it has been sustainable by native Alaskan tribes, and there hasn't been really any other human contact with the park. Two, the drilling for oil would destroy the ecosystem. And three, oil drilling would wipe out the native Gwich'in Alaskan people. So, for one, ANWR is pristine wilderness. According to Richard Voss, manager of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, which is part of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge was established to preserve unique wildlife, wilderness, and recreational values, to conserve caribou herds, polar bears, grizzly bears, muskox, Dall sheep, wolves, wolverines, snow geese, peregrine falcons, other migratory birds, Dolly Varden, and grayling, and to ensure the necessary water quality and quantity. My second point is drilling in ANWR would destroy the ecosystem. One of the main problems with having oil drilling is oil spills. According to the Wilderness Society in Trudeau Bay, which is a nearby oil drilling location, 4,552 spills were reported between 1996 and 2004, totaling more than 1.9 million gallons of oil, and that is an average of 504 spills per year. And when spilled, the produced water, a byproduct of oil extraction, and seawater spilled from wells and pipelines kill vegetation and with long-lasting damage to the tundra. And because the area we're talking about is a tundra, it's very fragile, because it's not like the rainforest where there's a lot of life. It's a very low amount of life, so that any kind of disturbance can just throw it off balance. And according to the National Academy of Sciences, no current cleanup methods remove more than a small fraction of the oil spilled in marine waters, especially in the presence of broken ice. And since the Arctic, there is broken ice, and so there's going to be so cleaning up any of these spills is going to be very difficult. Also, we risk having another one of the Exxon Valdez oil spills, which after 16 years, the devastating toll on fish, wildlife, and people continues. Most species of fish and wildlife injured by the spill are not fully recovered. According to the Exxon Valdez Trustee Council, out of the 28 species and resources studied, only 7 species or resources are considered to have recovered. Another problem is the impact this has on the native animals. The Coastal Plan Resource Assessment and Legislative Environmental Impact Statement, which was put up by the Congress, which was a review done by Congress to see if they should allow drilling in this area, concluded that that drilling in area 1002 would have major effects on the porcupine caribou herd and the musk oxen. Major effects were defined as widespread long-term change in habitat and availability or quantity, which would modify the natural abundance or distribution of species. Moderate effects were expected for wolves, wolverines, polar bears, snow geese, seabirds, and shorebirds. Major restrictions on sustenance activities by the Kakavik residents would also be expected. The Kakavik is the small town where the Gwich'in Indians live, which brings me to my third point. This would have a negative impact on the natives. Kakavik is a place where the native Gwich'in Indians feel their traditional values and way of life is threatened by oil. Fanny Tritt, a resident of the Arctic village, said, considering oil drilling, there will be no more Gwich'in Indians if that happens. It will be just like wiping us off the face of the earth. they're worried because the name Gwich'in actually comes from, means caribou people, and drilling in this area would threaten the caribou herd, which they hunt for their sustenance, and destroying this for oil would be terrible. Exploiting a national park would destroy a group of people that is a model for sustainability. These people have lived in harmony with nature for hundreds of years, and drilling in ANWR would not only destroy an ecosystem, but also a way of life. Thank you.
All right, Jeffrey, the claim is very clearly stated. It's a claim of fact, so you're doing a good job there. The supporting points were laid out nicely in the preview, although the first point doesn't really sound like it's a claim. It's more like it's descriptive background information. And when you support it, all you've got is the one quote right at the beginning that just describes what ANWR is. It doesn't even say that there's going to be an impact on it. All of the argument is in the second and the third points there. I think you need to give us a little bit more context about the argument. Some people are likely to know that there's been suggestion to drill in ANWR, but you need to kind of explain what the political context is and why it is that somebody is even suggesting this, just so that we know that the controversy is still hot and going. The signposting on your supporting points when you got there was pretty good. I thought when you made that transition to the third point, it was really solid. Your evidence, you are doing a couple of comparisons that you're making Prudhoe Bay and Exxon Valdez. You give those citations, and you provide some factual data on each of those points to illustrate the point that you're making there. I thought you did a good job citing testimony and also qualifying the testimony, the sources that you cited, as being thoughtful and people who are folks that ought to be taken seriously, or studies, for instance, that should be taken seriously. I did think that the one conclusion on the third point, that the native population would be wiped out, was a little bit of a conclusionary statement. The explanation about the relationship to the caribou shows that it's related to the argument on the first point. So you do have a chain argument that's going on there, and you need to definitely show that the caribou are the ones that are going to be most threatened in that particular situation. You were pretty consistent about citing your sources. I think your generalizations based on the evidence that you presented are pretty strong. Pacing's a little bit uneven. It's not always as smooth as it could be. At the end of the speech, there's not really a summary, and the conclusion seems a bit abrupt, and you had a little bit of time to kind of remind us what the point was, and I think that would have been a nicer way to finish things off. All right, thank you.